Hey there, it's JohnBerry555 and welcome to my full review of The Mandalorian Chapter 18. This is the second episode of Season 3 and its title being The Mines of Mandalore. So where to begin with this episode? Well, as I mentioned back in my spoiler-free review, this episode deviates from the trend that we've seen from most of The Mandalorian so far. That being the side quest episode. Now, side quest does not mean filler, but essentially, how it was set up at the end of last episode was Din was going to retrieve a memory circuit so IG-11 could get repaired. Well, he goes to see Peli on Tatooine to find something there, but he doesn't. Instead, he gets all five to help him on, scout out Mandalore and all that. Though I was expecting a BD droid, and that would have been perfect in my opinion. That would have been perfect, but they didn't. I mean, Star Wars Jedi Survivor's coming out soon. A BD droid. Come on, that would have been good marketing and brand integration. Perfect. It would have made sense because BD droids were designed for exploration and archaeology and all that. So it would have made sense. But alas, they didn't do it. But I think there's a good reason why they didn't do it. Instead of focusing on anything like brand integration, it's focusing on Din's character journey around his acceptance of droids. Because IG-11 was the first droid Din learned to trust. That's why he wanted Din. Now he's being in a situation where he can't get IG-11 back. First, it was because he just didn't know how to reprogram. Then the droid smith was like, sorry, the necessary part to do a repair we don't have. We need one in order to repair. Now in this episode, once again, he has another roadblock. That part is not made anymore. So the only way Din can get that part back would be to scavenge it from another IG droid. That's the impression I've got. So three times he has been blocked from getting the one droid he trusts. So he's given all five. And why all five? It's a droid that he has had some interactions with before. So it's not a droid he's not totally disfamiliar with. But it's also a droid that it has feel. All five is showed frequently in this episode to be afraid. That's going to force Din to act, to do stuff. And on Mando, when all five goes off the sensor, off of the scope for his starfighter, Din agrees with basically Grogu's kind of pushing him, but agrees to seal his helmet and go outside and look for all five. Would he have done that for IG-11? Probably without a doubt, but he probably would have also trusted IG-11 much more. He would have trusted that if IG went off the scope, that IG could take care of himself. But not all five. But he still went out and did it anyhow, even though he doesn't have full trust of all five. It's not the one droid he trusts. That's the important thing why it's all five. And he needed to, once again, go out and help a droid or interact with a droid that he had not learned to trust. It's his journey of overcoming his prejudice of droids. And he also has to save all five for some creatures on Mandalore that we learn used to live on Mandalore, on the outskirts of Mandalorian civilization, wild creatures. So I do wonder, are they actually, wild beasts? I'm just saying, could they actually be maybe the natives of Mandalore? I don't know. That could be something interesting to explore. Don't know if they will, but it would be interesting. But that was just one random thought I had. But going back to saving all five, he had to use the Darksaber to save all five. And we got the reminder that Din is clunky with the Darksaber. He does not wield it well. He finds it unwielding. He's not graceful with it. And this contrasts nicely with a scene later in the episode. So I'm just going to jump to that scene as is. So later on in the episode, Din is gotten captured by a creature. That creature, by the way, is creepy and has an organic eye. So who knows what's going on there? There's so much we could speculate. But I think it was more intended just to be a monster that is a roadblock and then trying to bathe in the waters, the mines of Mandalore, and to get redeemed. But anyhow, he's captured. Grogu goes to bo-katan for rescue. Bo-katan comes in and rescue. But in order to defeat that creature, that mechanical cyborg creature thingy, bo-katan picks up the Darksaber, and she does not struggle with it. This is in direct contrast with Din. And I think to really understand why Bo-Katan did not struggle or then is, we have to go all the way back to Star Wars Rebels, where Sabine learned to wield the darksaber. And when she first learned to use it, she was much more like Din, clunky. She was not wielding it well, and she had the benefit of Jedi training her, who because the darksaber is a type of lightsaber, so what Jedi understand about the lightsaber could be applied to Sabine's situation, even though she, just like Din and Bo-Katan, are not force wielders. Maybe some attunement to the force, but are not force wielders. And with Sabine and also Bo-Katan, they probably have for that better term, maybe a clarity of purpose. They have no baggage they're dealing with. Din is dealing with baggage. In the back of his head, we all know it's back though. He knows that the children of the watch are not right. He probably does know that, but he's not willing to admit it yet. Because if he did, that would probably shatter everything he's known. Bo-Katan, everything she knew has been shattered, but though she's still kind of clinging a little bit, but she is not, in a sense, delusional, for lack of a better term. She's not being held back by the past. Sure, she's wallowing in it, but she's not being held back by it. She doesn't trust herself maybe anymore, but she's not being held back by it. No, in a sense, realizing Din was in trouble snapped her out of her depression that I theorize that she's in. And probably if she picked up the darksaber, before she went to rescue Din, and had to use it, she probably wouldn't have wielded it as smoothly as she did earlier because she got back into things. While actually traveling with Grogu to rescue Din, she is clearly reflecting on everything that is going on. Mandalorians constantly fighting each other, and she was talking about herself because she literally fought against her own sister. She's part of the reason why Mandalore fell, and she knows it, I think. And I think that's part of the reason why she acknowledges everything that's happened. She hasn't said it out loud to Din, Grogu, or anyone else, but she acknowledges it. And actually, she imparts some advice to Grogu, much like Din has. The first piece of advice that Din really gives Grogu in this episode actually has to deal with navigation. He specifically tells Grogu, that's Mandalore, that's Concord, the Moon Concordia, or was it Concordon? I forget which one. I get those two mixed up. And then this is where we visited Bo-Katan previously. And that was setting up so Grogu could go get Bo-Katan to rescue Din. But going back to the advice that Bo-Katan gave Grogu, it actually has to do with the relationship between the Jedi and the Mandalorians, or it's more of a history lesson. Basically, she tells Grogu that Mandalorians and Jedis were not always enemies. And I wonder, obviously, and she's probably referring to when she fought alongside Obi-Wan against Maul and Ahsoka against Maul, all that near the end of the Clone Wars, fighting with Ezra and Kanan, also during the reign of the Empire. That's probably what she's thinking of. But maybe way back in time, back with Tar Vizsla, the first Mandalorian to become a Jedi, maybe all the way back then, the Jedi and the Mandalorians weren't enemies. That's my theory. What if at one time the Jedi and the Mandalorians were not enemies, but at least friendly with each other, if not outright friends? But something happened. Maybe something to do with Tar Vizsla and reclaiming the darksaber. What if it's all connected? I don't know, but it's established a lot that a lot of the myths of Mandalore, Bo-Katan no longer has faith in. Meanwhile, Din is so romanticizes those faiths of those myths and legends and lore that he's unable to move beyond them, but he is moving beyond them. Kind of like I touched on in my previous review for the last episode, the characters who are beholden to the past in some form are not achieving their goals. Bo-Katan, you can definitely tell by going back to Mandalore to rescue Din. Maybe she's had her own mini awakening, hence why she was able to wield the darksaber with ease compared to Din, who couldn't, because he has not had that awakening in himself. He has not dealt with those repercussions of the past. Sure, he's moving beyond it, but he has not acknowledged it yet among himself. And I think once he does that, he will be able to wield the darksaber without struggle, without difficulty. Unless Grogu, I mean, it's possible. But But that's kind of the heart of the episode. But there's other stuff going on, good stuff, lots of good stuff going on in this episode. Mainly, Din and Bo-Katan and Grogu, of course, do arrive at the mines of the Mandalore with the living waters, and Din goes to recite the creed and redeem himself by bathing in those waters. So he's either pulled down, but I think actually he just was not paying attention. He fell off the last step in the water. But Bo-Katan dives down to rescue Din again, the second time this episode. But on the way up, she sees a missile. Earlier in that episode, right before Din falls into the water, she's reading a plaque talking about the history of the mines of Mandalore and the waters there, and how it was legend had it that it was the layer of a missile. That's connecting, like, in a way, she's rediscovering her faith in the Mandalorian myths and legends, and like the other stuff probably Din was taught as a founding with the children to watch, but he romanticized them. Well, Bo-Katan, she's not romanticizing them. She's doing the quite opposite. So maybe somewhere in the middle, they can meet and truly get help move Mandalorian forward with a new way. So my theory going forward is both of them are going to work together to lead Mandalore to the future. Perhaps maybe a more democratic Mandalore, who knows? But because they made multiple mentions to Mandalore's royal family and how Bo-Katan was a part of it, and how as a child, as a part of the royal family, she took the creed in those waters, etc., etc. Why are they mentioning that if not either three things could be happening. One, they're going to get rid of that method of choosing the leader and form maybe something more democratic, or Din's going to create a new leadership dynasty, or Bo-Katan's going to come in. They're not going to mention Bo-Katan being from a royal family unless it's going to play a role in later episodes, and how it could come in conflict with the children of the Watch. It's only a matter of time, but Din needs to realize the children of the Watch are a Mandalorian cult. They're Mandalorians, yes, but they're extremists. They're even probably more extreme than the Death Watch, which I'm going to assume the children of the Watch were born out of. Probably thinking the Death Watch was not, extreme enough, infighting, if you will. It's just a theory I have, but yeah, I do think we're going towards something about a new Mandalorian society being formed that take elements from the old, but does not, it's not letting the past die like some people will advocate for, but it's also not living in the past as some people will advocate for. It's the healthy respect for the past, along with not being blinded and beholden to it. And then a few other things I would like to mention. I'll go back to Tatooine mainly. The opening scene with Peli. It's like she and Jawas are working together to scam speeder owners into repairs. It's just hilarious. All doing Boon to Eve, which connects nicely back to episode 1, because that was the Pod Racer Anakin one, was the Boon to Eve classic. So those world building elements that this is some event going on this planet. Who cares what it is? But yeah. And actually, Boba Fett did get a mention, and he's a third type of person, Mandalorian. You have Bo-Katan, who's probably what you could say, embodying more of the standard Mandalorian society in some ways. The Mandalorian, or maybe better yet, the royalness of the Mandalorian society, the lineage. Then you have the children of the Watch, who are all about tradition and following tradition originally. And then you got Bo-Katan, like, my father was a Mandalorian, therefore I'm a Mandalorian. And that's really about all he needs to know. Like, could somehow all that come together? Because why mention Boba Fett unless he's going to play a role in it in the story as another perspective on what it means to be a Mandalorian? It's just a thought, but I think that is where I'm going to end this review. I do hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comment section down below. Also, give the video a like, upvote, and share if you haven't done so already. And consider subscribing to the channel as well. And as always, have a day, a good night, wherever you are. May the force be with you. And this is the way.